Revealed, the sinister, cursed town we discovered at a remote Alaskan base. It shouldn't exist. Emily had stars in her eyes when she and Jacob moved to their cabin in the pines, but the enchantment soon twisted into something darker. Every neighbor wore a mask of cautious smiles, their glances darting nervously when she strolled past. The air turned suffocatingly thick, as if the trees themselves held violent whispers. Did they know? Had they seen the shadows that moved just beyond her vision? Rumors of disappearances chipped away at the small-town veneer, stories of children who had innocently wandered into the woods, only to become echoes in the chilling wind. The tales seeped through the town like a fog, each word a sharp prick against her skin. When she heard them mentioned at the local diner, the patrons fell silent, staring into their coffee cups. Suddenly, the calm exterior shifted, revealing a raw edge of fear woven tightly into the fabric of their lives. As night enveloped her solitude, Emily stared out across the hollow landscape, the dark trees reaching toward the ominous sky. Jacob's late-night job at the military base became a haunting clock, each tick amplifying her dread. Silence hung heavy, wrapping around her like a shroud. Creaks in the cabin sounded like whispers, promising secrets best left unspoken. Shadows seemed to stretch and flicker, morphing into figures that loitered just beyond her sight. Each night, her dreams spiraled into a twisting nightmare. She found herself trapped in the woods, pursued by clawing branches and indistinct shapes that beckoned with sinister urgency. She woke gasping for air, heart pounding against her ribcage like a caged animal. They were coming for her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into a blur of dread. She wandered the outskirts, searching for answers but finding only the sinister pull of dread interwoven with the town's charm. The unnerving laughter of children playing echoed in the distance, a melodious sound turned menacing by her knowledge. Then there were the whispers, old tales of gold, of broken spirits hidden in the earth. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong at the base. She could feel it gnawing at her. On her way home, she glimpsed something, a hooded figure hastily retreating into the shadows. Jacob's distant laughter haunted her during endless nights. Where was he? What was he dealing with? The weight of these questions turned into burdens she couldn't shake off. The townsfolk, those seemingly benign faces, often shared knowing glances, and their smiles held secrets. She dared to think that under their charm lay an unsettling truth, one that linked her husband to twisted operations and dark experiments hidden from sight. Just as the dawn began to edge out the night, she faced the cabin, heart racing. Could she confront the shadow-strewn reality? The truth lay too close as the breath in her lungs. She felt it, the chilling realization that their story could soon be inscribed on those crumbling church walls, echoes of vanished souls forever haunting this cursed town. Emily couldn't shake off the weight pressing on her chest. The tales of the children echoed in her mind, warped into a chilling lullaby. She paced the cabin as daylight faded, illuminating the looming trees that felt like silent witnesses, their twisted branches clawing at the sky. They were hiding something. She knew it but didn't know what. With each creak of the old wood, her anxiety intensified. The shadows in the room danced with the flickering glow of a lone candle, creating grotesque figures that seemed to mock her rising fear. Jacob had been due back by now. Each hour passed torturously slowly, amplifying the silence that clung to the cabin like fog. Where was he? The idea of venturing outside felt like stepping into a dark abyss, an invitation for unseen forces to snare her dwindling sanity. Yet, the thought of Jacob being in danger urged her forward. She had to find him. Grabbing a flashlight, she stepped outside, the biting cold wrapping around her like fingers. The moon hung low, casting eerie light across the pines that reached like skeletal hands towards her. Each step felt like a defiance against the quiet, a rebellion against the oppressive fear radiating from the depths of the forest. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see a shadow looming behind her. The path seemed to twist and turn unnaturally, leading her deeper into the woods, farther away from the cabin. With each crunch of leaves beneath her feet, her heart raced more. This was foolish, yet instinct pushed her onward. Then she heard the laughter. Dark and taunting, drifting through the trees, wrapping around her like a serpent. It wasn't the innocent giggle of children playing, it was something else, something masquerading as joy but steeped in malevolence. As she pressed deeper, the laughter morphed into whispers, matted voices blending into incomprehensible murmurs. They weren't just sounds, they were invitations, pulling her into the wood's embrace. Finding herself unable to turn back, she stumbled upon a clearing bathed in ghostly light. In the center stood dark shapes, converging figures of children, faces hidden behind twisted masks. Their eyes glowed with something unnatural, a deep hunger that sent chills through her spine. They stood motionless, as if waiting for her to join their unholy gathering. "What do you want?" Emily's voice trembled, stolen by the cold air. The laughter grew louder, the whispers sharpening into angry chants. Panic gripped her heart, and she turned, ready to flee. But the forest seemed to shift, trapping her within its clutches. The trees closed in, as if in agreement to keep her from escaping. A figure appeared at the edge of the shadows, stepping into the moonlight. It was Jacob, but his expression was not one she recognized. Gone was the warmth in his eyes, replaced by a cold, vacant stare. He moved toward her with deliberate slowness, like a marionette strung from invisible threads, each step echoing with a chilling finality. "Emily," he whispered her name, but it sounded distorted, hollow. She took a step back, heart pounding, reality crumbling around her. "Jacob, what is happening?" Fear coursed through her, seeping into her bones. "They need you," he said, his voice an echo of something far beyond this world. The malicious laughter erupted around them, rising like a storm. Emily felt her vision blur as shadows surged closer. Was this truly her husband? Or was she tangled in whatever darkness this town had woven? She bolted, breaking free from the spellbinding dread, racing back towards the path. The woods howled, branches snapping at her heels. Panic surged through her. She had to escape this living nightmare. But she could already hear the whispers of the lost, murmuring her name. What awaited her at the cabin? Was there even a way out, or would she become just another echo lost in the wind? A sudden crash echoed behind her, and the night erupted into silence as she stumbled, realizing the figures weren't far behind. The moon hung full, casting its ghostly light upon her. And in that moment, she knew the truth was lurking just out of sight, ready to shatter her world completely. What awaited her when she turned back? Emily sprinted, fear clawing at her throat, threatening to choke her with each labored breath. The trees whispered ominous secrets, their branches reaching closer, almost as if warning her to turn back. The laughter of the children had intensified, weaving through the branches like a dark fog. They were everywhere, watching, waiting. Her heart hammered louder as she plunged forward, not daring to look back. She could feel their eyes on her, cold and hungry, as if they were relishing her panic. How could they be both so silent and so terrifyingly present? The path twisted in sharp curves beneath her feet, made treacherous by her fraying nerves and the shadows swallowing up the moonlight. "Jacob!" She screamed, her voice choked with desperation. The response was eerie. The laughter seemed to reshape itself into echoing choruses, mocking her. There was no answer from the darkness, just the insistent sound of her own pulse thundering in her ears, drowning out the forest's malevolence. Rounding a bend, she spotted the cabin silhouette in the distance. For a fleeting moment, hope flared within her. But as she neared, she noticed an unsettling stillness blanketing the area. The cabin loomed like a specter, dark and foreboding, as if it was more a predator than a shelter. Shadows flickered within the windows, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were not her own. A sudden crash echoed from inside, followed by a chorus of faint giggles that made her skin crawl. Clutching the flashlight, Emily hesitated, inching closer to the cabin's door. It stood ajar, swinging slightly as if inviting her in, taunting her with warmth and safety that felt like lies. Drawing a deep breath, she pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, the sound reverberating through the empty space. A putrid stench hit her, stale air mingling with something sweet and rotten. She stepped inside, flashlight beam darting across the gloom. The once cozy interior was transformed into a shrine of horror. Cracked walls were plastered with faded drawings from children, their twisted smiles echoing the figures she had seen in the woods. And then she saw it, a circle in the center of the floor, a dark stain smeared across the wood, pulsating with a life of its own. Sudden dread flooded her. What had happened here? Was this the fate of those lost children? Then Jacob's voice broke through her panic, low and haunting. Emily, she turned sharply, but he wasn't standing in the doorway anymore. No, he was inside, waiting beside that grotesque spot, his eyes reflecting shadows that seemed to breathe. Fear and sadness crashed over her like a wave, and those vacant eyes, so unlike Jacob, implored her to stay. Join them, he murmured, and the air shimmered as the shadows danced at his feet, beckoning her. No. This isn't you. She cried, feeling the pull of both fear and love inside her. The distant laughter surged again, growing closer, and in that heartbeat, Emily felt an overwhelming impulse to flee or sacrifice everything to understand. Her feet moved of their own accord toward him, drawn to that dark stain below. The shadows slithered like oily fingers, closing in, and she had to choose. Then she remembered the stories. The town was cursed, those lost children, they never returned. No. She yanked her gaze away from Jacob, scrambling back toward the door. Just then, the laughter morphed into screams, filling the space with chaos, rage, and a wretched sorrow that enveloped her. As she stumbled back into the forest, the shadows erupted behind her, chasing, clawing, hungry. The whispers shifted into a single, unrelenting voice. You will never escape, you will join us. The last remnants of hope disintegrated as she raced through the darkness, the night pressing in on her like a vice. She couldn't outrun the voices, nor could she escape her own memories of this cursed place. What new horrors awaited her beyond the next bend? Would Jacob reclaim his own, or would he be lost to the darkness forever? Branches whipped against Emily's arms like angry hands as she pushed through the underbrush, her breath hitching in her throat. The laughter followed her, taunting and relentless, echoing through the trees as if they were alive. Shadows danced maniacally in her peripheral vision, morphing into the faces of children she once knew, faces contorted in silent screams. Stay, join us, the words echoed, intertwining with the rhythmic thudding of her heart. She didn't dare stop, even as her legs burned and her vision blurred. She could almost feel the damp chill of a ghostly hand brushing her back, beckoning her toward the darkness. Just a few more steps, she chanted to herself. Just get to the road. But the forest felt endless. It twisted and turned like a maze, full of pitfalls and traps. Gnarled roots snagged at her feet, tripping her, while eerie shadows darted behind the trees, phantoms luring her deeper into their grasp. Emily's mind raced. There had to be a way out. Jacob. She screeched again, desperation warping her voice into an unrecognizable cry. Every shout seemed to drag the laughter nearer, churning it into a wild cacophony that wrapped around her like dense fog. She shook her head, fighting the rising hysteria. In the distance, just ahead, she spotted a flicker of light, a glimmer of hope or another trap. She pressed forward, her gut nodding with each step as she neared the clearing. The light grew brighter, pulsating like a heartbeat. What lay beyond it? Was it safety, or had the darkness led her to a more sinister pit? As she stepped into the bright clearing, the weight of the shadows lifted briefly, leaving her breathless and blinking against the sudden illumination. Then she froze. The clearing was filled with children, faces she recognized and some she didn't, playing, laughing as if nothing was wrong. Their eyes gleamed with an unsettling light, vacant yet gleeful, drawing her in with false warmth. In the center lay a massive, weathered tree, its bark twisted and dark, shadows crawling up its trunk as if alive. "Emily!" They shrieked in unison, every face splitting into wide, jagged smiles. "Join us! Join the fun! Stop it!" she yelled, feeling her knees weaken. All those innocent faces, now twisted vessels of something dark. Panic surged again, but behind the laughter was something more, a hunger, a lure to join them beneath the watchful eye of that ancient tree, which seemed to whisper conspiracies of lost souls. "No!" Emily turned, ready to flee, but the air thickened, a smothering force pinning her down. The laughter morphed back into the screeching chaos of earlier, becoming a harrowing tidal wave sweeping her away even as she fought. Then she spotted it, a glimmer beneath the children's feet, a flash of metal. A knife? Her heart raced. The truth of the stories whispered in town surfaced like bile. The children. The tree. The blood. "Help us!" Jacob's voice floated again, more insistent, pulling at her heart. How could he be one of them? Was she too late? In that moment, something shifted. The children, their eyes reflecting a deep, bottomless void, closed in on her, hands reaching. Suddenly, a desperate decision unfurled in her mind. It felt right but wrong all at once. Emily took a step back, her resolve forging her next move. "No!" she screamed. "I will not join." But the shadows surged forth, hungry and relentless. Her heart pounded, drowning out the laughter that echoed through the air. With every ounce of strength, she bolted from the clearing, leaving the chilling smiles behind, but their cries clawed at her ears. As she raced into the thicket of trees once again, adrenaline surged through her veins. She could not look back. What waited for her on the other side? Would she ever escape this wretched place? Emily, the voice, now sounding like a growl, faded beneath the cacophony of laughter and screams. With one final push, she broke into another clearing, but what she found was even worse than the children. A massive altar stood ahead, slick with dark stains that oozed into the grass beneath, where the earth itself seemed to throb as if alive. Was this the end or the key to unraveling the darkness surrounding her? The shadows converged once more, their whispers growing louder. Would she dare to uncover the truth, or would it consume her? The altar loomed above Emily, grotesque and alive, a pulsing heart of darkness in the midst of the forest. Thick, dark stains slithered down its sides, pooling on the ground in eerie patterns that seemed to whisper secrets of the land. The air was thick with an oppressive weight, the laughter of the children now twisted into a shrill sound that echoed hauntingly in her ears. Emily felt cold sweat trickle down her back. The ground beneath her trembled as though it held secrets far older than her, far older than the town she had left. She stepped closer, despite every instinct compelling her to flee. A part of her wanted to understand. Why were they here? Why this altar? The shadows slithered closer, almost beckoning her with tendrils of darkness. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, her voice shaking. The shadows writhed on the altar, and for a moment, silence fell. The children's laughter faded, replaced by an eerie stillness that felt like a breath being held, but then, the shadows began to form shapes, twisting and turning, revealing faces, children she thought she remembered. Their mouths moved, but the sounds were muffled, garbled as if they were trapped beneath layers of earth. "Emily, help us!" The voice of Jacob echoed clearly now, piercing through the thick fog of terror surrounding her. "You have to stop them. It's a trap." Panic surged through her veins. Was she really listening to him? How? What do I do? She cried, desperation lacing her every word. The figures on the altar began to convulse, faces transforming into grotesque masks of torment, their eyes pleading for release. Emily stepped back in horror. This was no sacrifice, this was a prison. They weren't playing. They were trapped, bound to the altar by forces dark and powerful. Then the shadows lunged forward, engulfing her in darkness. "Join us. Save your friends," they hissed, their voices myriad, each trying to bury her in confusion and dread. Just seconds away from being overcome, she steadied herself. "No. I want." It burst forth like a flame in the night, a fierce resolve igniting within her. She thought of the town, the stories she had heard, the chilling whispers of children lost to the woods. The altar's dark stain seemed to ripple in response, as if her conviction was a shockwave. "Release them!" she screamed, summoning all her strength. The shadows recoiled momentarily, and she saw the faint glimmer of hope flicker in Jacob's eyes, but the laughter resumed, relentless, a wave crashing against her mind, trying to tear at the fabric of her will. "You cannot save them. You are one of us." The chorus mocked, their shrill voices intertwining with the darkness. With unsteady hands, Emily reached into her pocket, fingers brushing against a small object, a silver locket, a charm given by her mother years ago. The familiar weight was comforting. "You can't take them. This ends now," she shouted, clutching the locket tightly. In that moment, she raised it high, sending a flash of silver light piercing through the darkness. The shadows screeched, writhing in agony as they were forced back. The altar shuddered beneath her feet, the dark stains recoiling as rays of light illuminated the grotesque forms of the children. "Emily, run!" Jacob shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. But she couldn't. She had to save them. The locket burned in her palm, a beacon against the encroaching shadows. Would it be enough? Would it free them or merely invite another wave of darkness? The children's faces twisted in terror, still wanting her to join, but now, Emily's heart raced not just with fear, but with determination. She wasn't leaving without them. From the corner of her eye, she saw movement, a shadow darting closer, something far more sinister approaching, a dark silhouette creeping silently from within the trees. As fear pulsed stronger than before, Emily's breath hitched. Who or what lurched from the darkness? And would her power be enough to face it? The shadows writhed around her once more. Suddenly, the trees began to close in, the laughter transforming into guttural growls. The oppressive weight of despair crushing her resolve. In that moment of dread, a choice loomed on the edge of her mind. Would she confront the shadows, or succumb to the darkness entwining around her? "Jacob!" she cried out again. "Stay with me." But the shadows began to envelop her, pulling her into their grasp, and the echo of Jacob's voice faded. What awaited her in the depths of that darkness? The weight of panic clawed at her throat. Was she doomed to join their ranks, or could she turn the tide against the encroaching shadows? The altar pulsed, a throbbing heart of darkness, and her fight had only just begun. Emily felt the world around her twist violently. The shadows tightened their grip, suffocating her, while the altar flashed ominously, reflecting her fear back at her. The darkness whispered promises and temptations, pulling at her resolve. "We can protect you, join us," it hissed, and a shiver danced along her spine. But she had seen their faces. They needed her. Jacob's eyes, bright with fear and hope, remained etched in her memory. "You can't let them win," she yelled, more to herself than to the shadows. The locket pulsed fiercely in her hand, filling her with warmth. It was a connection to everything she had lost, a link to the light that existed outside this oppressive place. Then, a shadow lunged forward, a mass of darkness with tendrils that whipped and grasped, trying to pull her in. She dodged, heart racing, the sounds of the growling laughter surrounding her. She stumbled, barely keeping her footing as the shadows danced madly, blocking her view of the altar. In that moment of chaos, she noticed something in the dark, a flicker, a glimmer of silver. The locket seemed to shimmer even brighter, illuminating a path as if it understood her desperation. Could it guide her? "Please, help me," she whispered, focusing all her energy on the locket. It flickered again, almost as if responding to her plea. She raised it higher, and the light burst forth, piercing through the black veil that suffocated her. The shadows recoiled, howling in fury. Emily surged forward, propelled by the locket's power. With each step, she felt the bonds of darkness loosening, a weight lifting from her heart. She sprinted toward the altar, where the children's faces were desperate, eyes wide, pleading for salvation. "Hold on. I'm coming," she cried, pushing through the lingering shadows. The altar pulsed again, a heartbeat with a morbid rhythm. Emily reached out, feeling the warmth of the locket suffusing her with renewed strength. "Release them," she commanded, her voice ringing with authority. The shadows writhed violently, sensing the shift. They surged forward, a tidal wave of despair crashing against her. But the light from the locket brightened, forcing the darkness back, illuminating the altar in an eerie glow. It shone brighter than ever, revealing the truth of the altar's grotesque form, a prison where hopes were snuffed out, leaving behind despair and anguish. "Emily, hurry!" Jacob's voice echoed again, urgency flooding the air. But the shadows surged one last time, a desperate attempt to reclaim their hold. Emily stumbled as the darkness clawed at her clothes, tearing at her resolve. "No! You won't take me!" she screamed, swinging the locket fiercely as if it were a weapon. The impact echoed, a shockwave of light pushing the shadows back, throwing the grotesque figures of her friends into sharp relief. "We will not be trapped," she asserted defiantly. But just as victory seemed within reach, a powerful shadow detached from the rest, larger and more insidious, cutting through the chaos. It darted towards the heart of the altar, intent on reclaiming its captives. "Emily, turn back!" Jacob's voice broke through, but it was too late. The darkness clawed at Emily, tightening around her throat, snatching the air from her lungs. A flash of pain shot through her side, and she gasped as she was pulled closer to the altar. The shadows laughed, a cacophony that twisted her mind. "You chose poorly. You're just as lost as we are," they taunted, voices echoing from all sides. Would she succumb to the darkness, her resolve shattering at the last moment? With Jacob's anguished eyes staring back through the darkness, Emily knew she could not fail. With one last spark of strength, Emily lunged forward, aiming the locket directly at the heart of the shadows. "I won't let you win." Light exploded, but was it enough? The darkness roared, and for one agonizing moment, the forest echoed with its fury. A vortex of blinding light enveloped everything. And then, silence. Emily blinked, her mind spinning. Had she freed them, or had she fallen into despair? Shadows danced on the edges of her vision, teasing her senses. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the laughter again, but now, it sounded different. Darker. As she steadied herself, something stirred just outside the forest, the undeniable weight of something alive watching her. Was she truly alone? Or had the darkness merely bided its time, waiting for her to lower her guard? The answer loomed, chilling her bones. The fight was far from over. Emily's heart pounded in her chest like a drum, a frantic rhythm echoing the pulse of the locket in her hand. The overwhelming silence pressed against her, suffocating yet laden with a palpable tension. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, darting away from the light's aftermath, but she didn't dare let down her guard. "Jacob?" she called out, her voice trembling with uncertainty. No response came, only the rustle of unseen movements around her. Those dark, sinister whispers infiltrated her mind again. "You think you've escaped? We are everywhere." Chills ran down her spine. The laughter, that haunting sound, tap danced through the air, twisting her insides with fear. Were the children still trapped, or had they just vanished into nothingness? Determined to find the truth, Emily took a cautious step forward. The barren trees loomed tall and menacing. Their gnarled branches twisted like beckoning fingers, shadows spiraling among them. They seemed alive, hungry. As she ventured deeper, the echo of faint whispers caught her attention. "Help us, Emily," they sang, soft yet urgent, pulling her in multiple directions like puppets on strings. Follow it just a little closer, her breath quickened. Were the whispers real? Or was it the darkness, luring her into another trap? She steeled herself, heart racing as she followed the sound. Each step felt like walking towards a grave. The air grew thicker, charged with an overwhelming sense of impending doom. Then she saw it. A small clearing, illuminated by the faint, eerie glow of the locket. In the center lay a circle of stone, worn and weather-beaten. Their surfaces were engraved with runes she didn't understand. "Jacob?" she shouted, fear slicing through her like glass, and then she stumbled upon them, the children. They were huddled together, their faces pale and drawn, eyes wide with disbelief. Relief washed over her, mixing with an unsettling dread as she saw the flickering shadows clinging to them, not allowing them to move. "Emily," whispered one of the girls, her voice cracking like brittle bones. We are trapped. It's holding us. Something is taking us." Emily looked around, the sinister atmosphere constricting around her. "I'll get you out. Just hold on," she urged, keeping the locket glowing bright. But then she felt it, a wave of despair engulfing her, scratchy and cold. The shadows surged, whispering secrets meant to break her resolve. "You can't save them. You don't have the strength. Embrace the darkness." "No," she screamed, rage igniting within her. "I won't give in. You don't own me." The shadows recoiled momentarily, and in that instant, Emily noticed the altar, the horrible thing that had trapped the souls. It pulsed, now offering a glimpse of something deep inside, a flicker of a child's smile, a reflection of peaceful joy. "Fight it!" Emily shouted, feeling power swell through her once more. "They can't win." With that conviction, she raised the locket high, the pale light bursting into the space around her. The brightness pushed against the shadows like a relentless tide, illuminating the children's faces, who looked up at her with hope blooming in their eyes. But just as the shadows shrank back, something more significant stirred within the darkness. A figure emerged, tall, cloaked, and shrouded in black, eyes burning with malevolence. It laughed, an echoing sound like pebbles scraping across the asphalt. "Foolish girl. Think you can deny what is inevitable?" The realization of its presence froze Emily in place. This was the heart of the darkness. "You will suffer for your insolence, and they will be mine once more." With a swift motion, the figure reached out, shadows snapping like vicious whips towards her. A cold sweat pooled at her brow as she scrambled back, heart pounding. Could she withstand this? Would the locket protect her? "Emily, we believe in you," came the chant from the children, a mantra of strength that clashed with the shadows' taunts. But the shadows surged again, and Emily braced herself, light flickering. Could she muster the strength to fight back against this greater evil? The ultimate test loomed before her, the climax of the nightmare unfolding. Would she embrace the darkness or become its light? The answer spun wildly, leaving her breathless, on the very edge of despair. Desperation tightened around her throat. And then, the world around her began to dim. The shadows closed in, swirling like a dark mist around Emily. Panic bubbled within her chest, and for a moment, the light from the locket flickered, casting wild shadows that danced against the clearing surrounding trees. She felt the pressure of the intangible fingers reaching for her, desperate to drag her into their embrace. "Hold on!" she yelled, more to herself than to the children, grounding her in purpose. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, clawing at the edges of her resolve. "We'll take your light, girl. You will join them." The malevolent figure lunged forward, cloaked in darkness, its intent clear. A chill ran down her spine. Emily, heart in her throat, raised the locket higher. Its light intensified, brightening the clearing, illuminating the stark terror etched on the children's faces. "Look away! Look away!" One of the boys cried, as if the shadows themselves could exert a visual grip, but Emily couldn't look away. She couldn't let them be lost again. "I'll save you!" she shouted, her voice heated by a surge of determination. In that crucial moment, the darkness hesitated. The sinewy tendrils pulled back as though stung, retreating from the blinding light. Emily saw this as an opportunity and took a single step forward, bracing herself against the creeping shadows. Together, she commanded the children, her voice carving through the ethereal chaos. Focus on the light. Bring it close. The children's fear morphed into a flicker of hope. They reached out, hands trembling but steady, as they channeled their will into the locket. A radiant wave surged outward, pushing against the enveloping dark. The shadows roared, a deafening cacophony that rattled the very air around them. You think this light can save you? The figure howled, eyes glowing like embers. You're merely playing with it, girl. I will consume you all. But Emily refused to falter. No. She shouted back, desperation replaced by a fierce will. You don't control us. We will break free. The air thickened, shimmering with the pulsing energy from the locket. It was almost sentient, alive with a force unseen. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled, and cracks spidered outward from the altar, drawing the figure's ghastly attention. Stop this. It screeched, its voice a guttural rasp that sent a tremor of fear racing through her bones. You cannot hold against the inevitable. Just as that vile laughter echoed again, something stirred within Emily. A memory, a vision of the children, their fleeting laughter, the joy that illuminated their innocent faces. The weight of their shared suffering fell upon her like a leaden blanket. Remember who you are. She screamed, remember the light you carry within. As the children nodded in unity, the locket exploded with a brilliant glow, illuminating the clearing enough to burn the shadows away. The dark figure lurched back, its form dissolving at the edges as the light pressed against the gathering gloom, but just as victory cascaded through her veins, a sickening twist gripped Emily's heart. Flashes of twisted smiles danced in the light visions of her past, her fears laid bare. The faces of those lost to shadows tested her faith, whispering their doubts. Can you truly save them? Echoed the specters. Or will you be lost, like the rest? Emily staggered, the heaviness of their words clawing at her sanity. The figure lunged again, shadows shifting like a pack of wild beasts, seeking their prey. She felt her resolve waver, the cracks in her determination widening like a gateway longing to swallow her whole. No! She gasped as the shadows intertwined. I will fight. But the darkness surged, drawing strength from her confusion. The locket dimmed. The children cried out in desperation, Emily, focus. As the cacophony of fear spiraled around her, uncertainty gripped her throat. Could she truly save them all, or was she bound to join them in eternal darkness? As turmoil roared, the shadows writhed, tightening their grip, revealing whispers of what lay beyond, and then, a scream pierced the air, sharper than glass, pulling her toward an uncertain fate. Was it Jacob's voice? Or was it something far worse, a harbinger of despair, a whisper of doom? The fight was far from over, and Emily stood at the edge of a deep, dark chasm, one that promised to consume her entirely. The scream crackled in the air, a sound so raw it felt like a knife slicing through the chaos. Emily's heart stopped. She knew that voice. It was Jacob, the boy who had followed her into this nightmare, desperate for salvation. The shadows strained against her wretched, howling, clawing at her resolve. Jacob! She called, her voice wavering. A wave of dread washed over her. Darkness twisted and contorted as if it thrived on her uncertainty. She could feel the pull, the insistent beckoning of the shadows. Would they swallow him whole if she faltered? Stay with me, she urged, desperate. The children clustered around her, quivering, all eyes wide with terror. Jacob's scream cascaded through the trees again. Emily! Help me! His voice echoed like a gunshot, sparking flashes of adrenaline. But each word seemed to drag him deeper into the abyss. She faced the shadows, feeling the locket's light struggling against the suffocating dark. Focus! She shouted, striving to rally the fading strength of the children. Their small hands gripped her arms, brittle against the chaos surging all around. She fought to find the flame in her heart, the relentless pulse of the locket throbbing in her palm. We can bring him back. The dark figure emerged again, its eyes piercing through the light like knives. It stood at the edge of the clearing, watching, mocking, feeding off their fear. You think you can save him? That hope will protect you? It extended a skeletal hand, jagged fingers reaching through the light, pulling the shadows closer. Join me, join them, it's inevitable. Never. Emily cried, unwilling to let that voice embed itself in her mind. She could feel the childlike trust of the others powerfully at her side. Their hands found hers. But as they stood together, a chill swept through her, wrapping around her like a heavy mist. The locket flickered. Terror spiked. No, don't leave me now. She shouted, coaxing light from within, willing it to cut through the darkness. Jacob. She could barely whisper his name now, but the whisper sent ripples through the shifting shadows. Channel your energy. Push it back. The children, shaking but resolute, closed their eyes. They focused, pouring every ounce of light they could muster into the trembling locket, each heartbeat syncing with the locket's pulse. The light swelled, bathing the clearing in a warm, vibrant glow. Yet the figure seemed to snicker, the laughter bubbling around them like poison. Pathetic. It hissed. You think a mere trinket will drive me away? What lies in the darkness belongs to me. The light wavered. For a brief moment, Emily felt it all slip, her connection to the children, the strength of her fight. She saw visions of their faces fading, the stark glow dissolving into all-consuming black. A helpless voice laughed at the edge of her mind. All of it could be lost in seconds. Jacob, Emily, please. The cry broke through, raw and desperate. Fueled by that fear, a surge of adrenaline coursed through her. She felt it flicker within her, the hidden ember of hope igniting. Together. As their voices thrummed in unison, a burst of light erupted from the locket, ripping through the darkness. It surged outward, a tidal wave of brilliance that pushed back the shadowy figure. For a heartbeat, the space around them shimmered, and Emily saw it, flashes of flickering hope, laughter like sparkles breaking through storm clouds, but then, piercing through the shattering darkness came a new sound, deep, guttural, menacing, shifting the ground beneath her. The shadows, now chaotic, began to writhe with an anger she had never seen before. No! Screamed the figure, retreating for a moment yet still hungry, still ravenous. You think you're free? This is just the beginning, little girl. It all returns in time. The trees twisted and groaned, their branches contorting into sinister shapes, threatening to swallow them whole. Don't let go. Emily shouted, keeping the children close to her. But a new realization struck her, cold as ice. Shadows could not be banished, they merely retreated, waiting to strike again. The ground trembled more violently, and the laughter of the figure erupted into chaos. This resistance? It only makes your fate more delicious. Emily's resolve hardened. She could not break. They could not be lost again. But with each flicker of the locket, the voices of doubt swirled louder until a blinding flash interrupted them. It illuminated a path through the trees. Come on! She yelled, seeing hope in the fleeing shadows. But as they turned to run, what awaited them at the end of the path was nothing they could have anticipated. The twisted silhouette of a familiar figure emerged, beckoning them into the woods beyond. Could they trust it? Or was the darkness still waiting to make its final claim? Emily's feet pounded against the soft earth, shadows snapping at her heels. Her heart felt like a runaway train, thrumming against her ribcage as the cries for help echoed in her ears. Jacob! She screamed into the chaos, the sound swallowed by the surrounding darkness. The clearing loomed ahead like a ghostly beacon, and a surge of hope washed over her. Light shimmered from the locket, illuminating the tight faces of the children gathered around her. "Follow me," she shouted, desperation driving her forward, fists clenched around the locket, its silver surface gleaming in defiance of the dark, but the ground trembled ominously beneath her feet as the shadows danced wildly, trying to close in once more. "You don't belong here," the dark figure screeched from somewhere just out of sight. Its voice was heavy with venom, coiling around her like a serpent. "You can't save them, they are my nourishment." "No." Emily's voice rang out fiercely, and she pressed forward. "You will not take them from me." With each step, the locket pulsed with energy, the warmth surging through her veins. She turned to face the children, their faces pale but resolute. "Trust in the light, please," she pleaded, fighting against the tide of shadows that surged through the clearing. They closed in around her, grit and determination etched into their small, frightened faces. Returning to her side, they held hands in a tight circle, skin brushing skin as though together they could ward off whatever darkness threatened. "Remember joy," she whispered, urging them on. "The laughter of summer days and sweet winds against your skin. We are more than shadows." A flicker of understanding passed through the children's eyes. They nodded, their energy aligning with Emily's resolve. She raised the locket high, its luminescence growing, spreading outward like rays of hope piercing the oppressive veil of night. In response, the shadows tightened around them, thrashing and shrieking as if to drown her out. "You think this pitiful light can repel me? You are merely feeding the darkness. Join us, and you will know true power." The figure laughed, but its laughter was now tinged with desperation. "Never!" Emily roared, feeling the strength swelling within her. "This is for all of you." She concentrated, pouring every ounce of willpower into the brilliant glow emanating from the locket. Bright beams of light burst forth, scattering the opalescent darkness, and the shadows recoiled as if burned. "Push!" cried one of the children, gripping her tighter, and the circle expanded. Light cascaded from the locket, enveloping them in an otherworldly glow that pierced through the fear, igniting the very air around them. As the darkness faltered, Emily caught sight of Jacob's form flickering behind the advancing veil. His face twisted in anguish, caught in the throes of the shadow's struggle. "Emily!" he cried out, desperation tainting the plea. "I'm coming!" she shouted, fighting back tears. She focused on that face, the joy she had once shared with him. "Just hold on. We're almost there." The locket pulsed fiercely, a beacon guiding them through the storm. She sprinted toward him, urging the children along, hearts synchronized in their shared hope. They reached the edge of the clearing, where shadows danced chaotically, desperate to reclaim what they had lost, but just as they were about to reach Jacob, the dark figure lunged forward, twisting and writhing with rage. "You want to take him?" it screamed, a haunting cacophony of voices melding into one. "Get back!" Emily roared, pushing the light forward with all her might. The glow brightened tenfold, pouring out into the dark like molten sunlight. "You have no power here." In a final act of defiance, she summoned every shred of power from the children beside her, pouring it all into the locket. The darkness shrieked, twisting and contorting as it was pushed back, the ground shaking beneath them. Jacob reached out, fingers brushing hers, and as their skin touched, the energy connected them in a flash. Light erupted forth, enveloping everything in a blinding glare, forcing the shadows back into the depths of fear where they belonged. A deafening scream echoed as the dark figure vaporized, unhinged and distorted, reality splintering around it. The children's joy danced around Emily until it mixed with the resounding power of the locket. "Together!" Emily urged, and they fell into the rhythm of their combined light. As it soared, the darkness eventually dwindled, receding until it was but a mere memory in the shadows of their minds. Jacob's form solidified, warmth radiating from him. As light began to dim around them, Emily could finally breathe, her heart swelled with relief. "You did it," he whispered, his eyes bright with sincerity and life. Tears streamed down her cheeks as all the children cheered, their laughter intermingling with fleeting shadows as truth shone through the sinister veil. They were free, the sun began to rise, rays of golden light spilling through the trees, and Emily felt the suffocating weight lift, replaced by a warm embrace of hope and renewal. The forest around them began to transform, trees shedding their ghostly qualms like bad dreams, but just as Emily dared to breathe freely again, she felt a latent whisper from the depths still clawed for entry. It simmered beneath the surface, an unending threat waiting to awaken. A little slice of fear nestled in her heart. "We can't let our guard down," she murmured to Jacob, who nodded, resolved. They looked at one another, hope intertwined with remembrance, knowing that while today was won, the battle against darkness was not over. Together, they would face whatever awaited them next. "Let us go home," she said quietly, a fierce resolve reanimating her spirit. As they retreated toward the warm embrace of their cabin, Emily clutched the locket, a reminder of light forged in darkness, a promise that together, they could face anything. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us keep these stories alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Let us hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the power of supporting the channel, so let us keep this community strong.